The cervix of the rational world is growing very thin, making way for us to be born into the mystical dimension of a cosmos cluttered most often with more practical things. Well, not to begin like that. That may scare some of you and creep others of you out. But if we can't lace our speech with such buttery light reality now, on Christmas Eve, then we never can. So here we are, standing on the very spot where double exposure of two worlds happens, two realities, always present to each other at one and the same time, just like watercolors bleeding into one another, yet not fully joined. Yes, the beast of war and famine still snorts and heaves as loud as ever, its hot breath dripping from enraged nostrils. But also, there are a few wolves, who oddly decided to curl up with the lambs. And I'm not talking about in a mint jelly kind of way either. You see, it's always like that, both and, beasts of war and wolves with lamb. Even among us, this peculiarly extended community across time and continents, connected through the very thin whisper of electrons, some of us are suffering the haunt of grief, the lamentation of fractured relationship, the anxiety of illness, or the guillotine of lost income. At the very same time, for others, the breath of God echoes on the wind, bringing an unexpected healing, an oasis of peace from mental torment, even rest for the exhausted souls. Shh. Don't say it out loud, because the rational world, stretched like a latex glove over our brain, will not believe it, does not wish to see it, will go to great lengths to live in denial of it. So let's not stir up our rationalism just now. Let it be like a bony old dog that it is. Instead, stir up the imagination. Invite your intuition and sail that pond of emotion, activating all five of the other senses. That thing swirling around you, squeezing through your toes, curling behind your ears with its fingers running gently over your scalp, is the thin veil between God and creation, stretching thinner and thinner and thinner and thinner. From 1 to 10, it thins. A veil so sheer it's almost isn't there, so diaphanous and gauzy it really doesn't appear. It is the veil between God and creation, a semi-permeable membrane that gives shape without structure. This double exposure of believable and unbelievable is sometimes especially intense, sometimes especially confounding. As with the negative ions that stroke the skin after a thunderstorm, this thinning of the veil crowds the air thick with knowing. Shh. Can you feel it now? This pandemic Christmas Eve, this socially distanced intimacy, this time of masked smiling, this silent night tethered to anxieties and hopes. Sometimes, and now may be one of those times, the veil gets stretched so tightly across the border between us and the holy, we can almost see the little faces looking back at us from the other side. Little noses and lips smushed up against the invisible but opaque pane of days, and our faces likewise pressed against the clear window, bringing smiles to the other side. It's also true that skinny old dog sleeping in the corner, normally content to sleep between meals and attention, gets aroused when the veil is thin. The practical, rational, thoughtful mind travels down well-worn, rutted road, following the tracks of the oxen, horses, and wagon wheels it follows. It doesn't wander from those paths, and instead works to keep itself in those ruts and on those tracks. It is the prove it to me voice within our head, and it ticks down the list of reasons the veil is not there, or if for some reason experienced it is not real. It grumbles about commercialism and keeps an eye on the weather reports while barking about pandemics and war. That voice is easily hassled and disturbed by bad smells, ugly scenes, lost opportunities, fearful possibilities, and the knowledge that the Christmas tree will die and just be thrown away in the end of it all. And still, there is the other voice, the quietly humming voice coming from within the chamber of our otherwise hardened hearts. There is that definite cooing, the whisper of a song that bids us to look again at the winter landscape and see if we can't perceive a sign of spring hidden there. It's always like that, you know, both and, two voices with just one strand of music. We have to choose which one we will listen to now, in this moment. At Christmas, in the bleak midwinter, there is a strange magnetic power that has the unbelievable seeping through the thinning veil between God and creation. It sneaks through our resistance. It pokes through, but sometimes draws the attention of the cynical, hassled, rational inclinations to just get through it all. As much as we insist and need the intellectually credible, we also yearn for the lifting of the veil and the strange and the mystical. It's always like that, both and, resisting and yearning. It's what we do, we humans. All this worship stuff that we do on any given week is only an attempt to say something intelligent about the unbelievable holiness that moves like smoke through history, that sings its songs in the ears of our otherwise routine and unremarkable lives. All our biblical readings with all those antique images and all our hymns, and jolly and morose with all those poignant stories and poems, all of it overly formulaic with prayers and our predictable rhythms of communion, all of it is just our way of stuttering over what we are unable to say. If in all this stuff we do, we think we're going to discover some big truth, if we think we're going to uncover some tidy summary of God to unwrap each year in a digestible formula, we are gravely mistaken. All these things we do on Christmas or any given Sunday are merely highly articulate ways of stammering. As the veil between God and creation thins, just like a cervix in preparation for delivery, we suddenly realize that our most eloquent statements of faith crumble into shards of nothingness. That's the beauty of such thin moments like the one that we're in. When we come upon a thin moment like this, there are only three things we can do if we want to enter into it instead of resisting it. Watch, listen, wonder. Now that dog over in the corner, our insistent rationalism, will bark, will guard the entrance, will growl at anything threatening it. So don't wake that old thing, let it lie. Instead, watch, listen, and wonder. Don't analyze the story. Don't try to figure out the mystery. Don't apply logic to a thin place. Don't dissect and evaluate it until it's gone. Instead, watch and listen and wonder. Experience it. Feel it. Enter into the moment. Later, you can wake up that old dog and give it a bone, but in the thin moment, just watch, and listen, and wonder. Even in this time of pandemic, when it feels as though we're in a fog and it's all around us, and we may be more isolated than we've ever been, we still need to watch and to listen and to wonder. We've entered a thin moment, and the cervix is tapering the border between God and us. And strange things are afoot. Watch, listen, wonder, and enjoy. Merry Christmas, and peace be with you.